我が心と行動に一点の曇りなし。すべてが正義だ。ドジャーンドジャーンドジャーン一体何のつもりなんだ。遺体はこのバレンタインのことを好いてくれて。
This is HBR News number 464. What do Trump, DEI, Alec Baldwin, and male disposability have in common? Where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity so that you're not consumed by it. I am your host, Brian, and I'm joined by, as always, Hannah and Dr. Ranimer Cam. We have a show. I don't know if I want to say a great show.
Can you guess what we'll be talking about, folks?
Yeah. I mean, what else can you talk about? So, we have a show lined up for you guys this week, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comment section. On this week's show, we're going to be talking about the assassination attempt on former President Donald J. Trump. His DEI
Are we not calling it loud noises that caused him to fall and get a scorch?
Oh yeah, no, the interruption that caused him to stumble and fall. Or no, I mean, you know what? I should probably make a disclaimer. We have not entirely 100% confirmed that it was an assassination attempt. It could have been a giant psyop.
It was the wind.
Everything is an op now.
It was alien.
The wind.
It was UFOs. Yes. They did it.
Anything else than like somebody wanted him dead. But also there's stuff around it that I thought is worth discussing as well, like his security detail and Cory Comperatore. I apologize for butchering the name. Cory Comperatore.
Is it supposed to be Cory Comperatore or Cory Comperatore? Is it anglicized or spanglicized? I don't know.
I don't know. I was thinking it was kind of Italian, but it doesn't seem to be, so I don't know. But we'll get into that as well and more, so stick around. It's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us for the patron-only show after this show is over. So I am going to Chicago on Friday, and I will be gone for a week. I haven't seen my family in years. I have to go. It's driving me crazy, like being away from home for so long. So that means that we are going to be putting up shorts that week because I'm not going to be around to host shows or streams. And that means that I'm going to need help from the patrons in essentially selecting shorts. So we're going to be going through a stream that Allison and I did. I think it's the let me just check. I think it's the Lauren Southern one. Allison changed it on me. It is seedy underbelly revealed. The Manosphere seedy underbelly revealed. So if you want to join us, we're going to go through some clips and pick the best ones, a few of them, and upload them to the box so that there is content next week. So if you want to join us on that, you have to become a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, where you'll be able to watch all of the additional content, like shorts and things that Allison is working on of that nature. And there's lots of events, and it's a generally good and positive community. So please consider doing that by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we have been yeeted from the internet, please go to honeybadgerradio.com or badgerfeed.com. That is where all of our content lives. So with all of that out of the way, let us get into today's stories. So first, we're going to talk about a little bit of a follow-up regarding, you might have heard about Alec Baldwin. So let's look at this really quick.
It is a related story.
It is related.
In a Kevin Bacon sort of 6 degrees of separation kind of way.
Yeah. So what's going on with this? So in a not really surprising development, Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter case was dismissed by Judge Mary Marlowe Summer, who agreed with Baldwin's lawyers that prosecutors had concealed evidence related to the fatal shooting of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the set of Rust in 2021. The case was dismissed with prejudice, preventing it from being refiled. Baldwin, who could have faced up to 18 months in prison, was emotional upon hearing the dismissal. He claimed he was unaware that the revolver contained a live round and that it discharged accidentally. The dismissal was prompted by revelations that the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office had received live rounds of ammunition as evidence, but did not record or disclose them to Baldwin's defense team. Special Prosecutor Cory Comperatore contended that the disputed ammunition was irrelevant to the case. Despite the criminal case dismissal, a separate civil suit against Baldwin in New Mexico is ongoing. Attorney Gloria Allred emphasized that the dismissal does not exonerate Baldwin and that safety protocols must be followed to ensure a safe workplace for all crew members. Helena Hutchins' family also expressed respect for the court's decision and looked forward to presenting their evidence in the civil case. The evidence dispute arose when a crime scene technician testified about ammunition delivered to the sheriff's office by Troy Teskey, a former police officer and friend of Rust armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. This led Baldwin's attorneys to argue for dismissal due to not being informed about the rounds. Baldwin had earlier won a legal victory when the judge ruled that his role as co-producer on Rust was irrelevant to the trial, preventing prosecutors from arguing that he bore special responsibility on set, because he was one of the producers, or he was the producer. Special Prosecutor Erlinda Ocampo Johnson resigned over the handling of the evidence issue, but did not believe it was intentional.
So the first thing that stands out is a prosecutor making a decision that is not up to the prosecutor, that's up to the judge. You know, when evidence looks like it might be related to the case, the smart prosecutor would go ahead and add it in, even if they're not going to submit it. You know, even if they're not going to bring it up in court, they have to submit it because something like this can happen. And it is a violation of due process rights. The defendant has the right to prepare a defense against any evidence that the prosecution has. And they can't just add it in later because they decide later, well, maybe this is relevant. Right? And they can't just not disclose information that they have, even if they're not going to use it, because the defense has the right to have the opportunity to use it. And if this may have affected his case, if he may have been able to say, yeah, they really screwed up before I got my hands on that gun. People did things they were not supposed to do that were against the rules on the set. Here's what they did. That would have been enough to potentially exonerate him. You know, not a fan of the guy. I don't have to be a fan of the guy to defend his due process rights.
Sure.
Right? There's going to be people going, yeah, but he's an asshole. No, I don't care. I don't care if he is the biggest fucknut in the world. He has the same due process rights as everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's when you fuck up due process, it goes both ways. It can cost you a case where the person that is on trial might have done something wrong.
Yeah.
Or it can cause you to go after somebody who did nothing wrong with more strength than you have a right to use against him, and a handicap on his side that you don't have a right to cause him. And it looks like the latter is what happened here. You know, you as a leader, you're responsible for everything your underlings do. But if you command your underlings and you're saying, don't do this, this is the rules, this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're not supposed to do, and you don't know they broke the rules, you can't be responsible for that. You could be responsible for hiring dipshits, but you can't be responsible for what they do. Right? You might be liable economically, but it's not criminal to not know that somebody did something really stupid that affected you and affected the people around you later. It's not criminal to not know that somebody sabotaged you, even if they did it because they were stupid and not on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I begrudgingly agree I would never suggest that Alec Baldwin got away with murder. I would never have suggested this on a previous podcast or on any of the previous podcasts in which we've been covering this. Far be it from me to ever so much as insinuate that Alec Baldwin got away with murder. That would not be a thing that I said. We have to respect the process of the courts. And I don't know where we take it from there. We can perhaps respect the process of the courts after this technicality has been resolved, but I do not hold out any hope that Alec Baldwin will ever face the appropriate legal repercussions for murder. Because Alec Baldwin did not get away with murder. He did not commit murder. He would never commit murder, let alone manslaughter, let alone any of the other things that have been happening. In fact, it was staged. The whole thing was staged.
It was literally staged, actually. It was.
It was. Yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird juxtaposition, that's weird. Yeah, I mean, like it's just, I think that Hannah's right, and I don't disagree with any of that. But it is interesting contrast that someone gets due process, or maybe even more than due process. I think that there should be some, I wouldn't say manslaughter, I don't know about that, but you would think that there would be some accountability if you're the producer on the set and there are people that the armorer or the armorer is there with like live ammunition. We've talked about this on the show before. And that none of that's necessary because they use blanks when they make the film, but they had live ammunition and they were sort of firing the gun for fun, like when they weren't shooting, shooting at cans and bottles and stuff. And I think that in the shuffle, and also the fact that the woman who got the job as an armorer, it was sort of like, I think it was like one of her first jobs, if not her first job. And she was hired because of nepotism, like she knew somebody who knew somebody, and it led to this problem. So this is, I guess the only thing I would say about that is that if you're dealing with, guns, even on a set, you should be extremely careful. And I think that at the end of the day, I'm the kind of person that believes that, whoever is in charge, like whoever's managing, is ultimately where the buck stops. It has to stop with somebody, and it should be with the person at the top, the person who was calling the shots. And Alec Baldwin is a producer. He was the boss on that. So I don't know about manslaughter, but he certainly should be accountable. He can't just say, well, I didn't know, because it's your job to know. You should know everything because you produced the film. So I'm not speaking from a legal perspective at all. Just, as an outside observer saying, hey, it's like when I worked a job, as a manager, as a store manager, I was responsible for whatever happened in the store that I ran, even if I wasn't there, because I am where the buck stops, So that's it. I mean, there's not much else to say about it. It's a follow-up. He got off. I mean, it's not like he was charged with 34 counts, felony counts of whatever. So he got off pretty well.
We should be watching the lawsuit as it gets reported on, because that's going to be where he'll have accountability there, simply because, like you said, the buck stops with the person in charge, and that lawsuit is legit, right? This is the Hollywood left. They love regulation. The solution to this may be in giving them more of what they love. Just make it a felony criminal offense to bring live rounds of any kind onto a movie set if you are not armed security, doing the job of armed security and having those live rounds for your work. Or a police officer. Like anybody else, say, just make it a huge crime, make it disproportionately penalized, that they all know. If you even bring them onto a set, even bring them onto a rehearsal set, that if you get caught with them, that can be enough to put you in jail for years, as if you intended to murder somebody. And then they'll stop fucking around with guns,
Yep.
because you don't, they're tools. You don't fuck around with tools.
Lest you find out.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, with a tool that fires a projectile, you might not be the only one finding out. Somebody that didn't deserve to find out and wasn't fucking around might also find out.
Yeah. Well, so like I said, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments, and we're going to oh, I got a super chow before the show even started. I should probably read it really quick, because Meredith the Top G gave us something before the beginning of the show. So Meredith G gave us $5 and says, HBR News 464, I'm going to be missing out of the show live because family is in town. The part that enrages me more than anything else with regards to the Trump story, which we're getting to in a second, is a heroic man, a former firefighter, Cory Comperatore, will be forgotten for his sacrifice. We depend on men like Cory in our society, and we should be honoring their sacrifice. At least the man's wife and daughter are going to honor him. Yes, we will be getting to that. Thank you, Meredith, for those kind words. Yes, that is the story we're going to be ending on. So let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments section, and let us move on to the next story. So we're going to get into our main topic. It is kind of like 3 stories all related to the same topic, but I wanted to like compartmentalize it a little bit so that we don't end up going into the weeds too much on, you know, the way people are talking about it online and all that. Like, I get it. It's frustrating. Trust me. I know I've had to cuss people out for even like trying to bring nuance to this discussion, because I think it's ridiculous. But yeah.
And by the way, we will be going into the weeds if I have anything to do.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
it's
That's
gonna
okay.
happen.
It's
There's no
but I'm just
choice.
trying to like, I'm just making an effort to compartmentalize a little bit so that we kind of like, I guess what I'm saying is there is a field, but I put a fence like kind of far out, but there is still a fence, a wall, if you will.
If you
Anyway,
will.
Yeah. All right. But anyway, this was written by Mike J. He goes into some detail. Thank you, Mike J., for writing this. On the afternoon of July the 13th, while Donald Trump, that is the presidential nominee / former president Donald Trump, spoke at a political rally in Pennsylvania, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks prepared to attempt to assassinate the former president of the United States. A team of police snipers noticed Crooks scouting out the single-story HBR International building that the local police were using as a command center, but no action was taken. Crooks climbed the ladder to the roof of the structure and laid down, setting up a viewfinder and an AR-15 rifle. For nearly 30 minutes, he laid there preparing. Many rally-goers alerted local police to the 20-year-old on the roof, but again, no action was taken. Allegedly, one police officer climbed the roof but retreated once Crooks pointed his rifle at him. Seconds later, Crooks fired his first of several shots at Donald Trump. The shot struck Trump, but due to the angle at which he turned his head, the bullet merely grazed his right ear instead of striking his head dead center. Trump clutched at his ear, and when he noticed he was injured, immediately ducked down behind his podium as Secret Service rushed the stage. Crooks continued to fire shots, injuring 2 other rallygoers and killing another rallygoer, Cory Comperatore, who died shielding his wife and daughter from gunfire. Police snipers were able to shoot and kill Crooks shortly afterwards. Trump was helped to his feet, where he rose up with a fist held high, chanting, "Fight, fight, fight," before being ushered off stage and into a waiting black SUV. The aftermath of the shooting leaves a multitude of questions, but not many answers. The attempted assassin, Thomas Matthew Crooks, lacks a clear motive aside from what can be obviously assumed. More mysterious yet is his choice of outfit, a t-shirt from the popular gun-related YouTube channel Demolition Ranch, and his current political party affiliation, which was Republican, or at least he was registered as one. Some have attempted to explain away the shirt, stating that it was used, I guess, to better blend in with the crowd. And others have reasoned that the switch to Republican Party affiliation may have been part of the open Democrat plot to try and swing the state of Pennsylvania for Nikki Haley during the state's primary election, since Biden had no real competition in the state. Crooks was described by his fellow students as quiet and a loner who had no real friends but was often the target of bullies. Crooks had attempted to join his school's rifle club but was kicked from the club due to his inappropriate behavior, off-color humor, and his poor aim. The Secret Service is also under fire for their poor showing and lack of awareness surrounding the attempted assassination. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the next story. An ex-FBI special agent with nearly 25 years of experience, Kenneth Gray, stated that, quote, the Secret Service really screwed up in their planning for this outdoor event, end quote. He describes their lack of planning as scary and that the rooftop the shooter used as a vantage point should have been secured. He also criticized the female agents whose short height, when compared to the former president, Trump's over 6 feet tall, by the way, did not allow them to adequately shield him. I'll leave it to you guys.
All right, so the first thing I'm gonna address, because I've heard this from a whole bunch of people, was, oh, he was shot by one of your own. So I'm gonna have to explain some things to people about Trump supporters and the Republican Party, because y'all don't remember what was happening in 2015, right? There were many of us in the Republican Party who, by 2015, we had quiet quit the party. Like, yeah, we're still registered. Yeah, we vote in the primaries, and maybe for Republican candidates when we like them, but we were not happy with the party. Many of us were not happy with the party. Many of us looked back at the things that the previous presidents had done, through hindsight being 2020, and felt lied to and manipulated. A lot of us were watching the Republicans cooperate with the communists in DC for many years and wondering, what the hell, why are you allowing this over and over and over again and giving them more power? So many of us were not really excited about the election until Trump got involved. And a lot of us that are Trump supporters, the only reason that we're still registered Republicans is because Trump ran as a Republican. If Trump had run as a libertarian, there's a lot of us that will be registered libertarians right now. Right? And that's basically the effect that he had. The Republican Party still exists as a party because of this man. So the Never Trumpers in the Republican are not one of ours. It's kind of like a family with, a divorce and a remarriage and half siblings and step siblings and siblings from the previous marriage and siblings from after the marriage. You have yours, mine, ours, and theirs. That pretty much describes how the party fractured in 2015 and 2016, and it has never really unified since then. But I've been watching a lot of people who were open Never Trumpers from the party respond to this situation by waking up to a lot of things. So, welcome to understanding what's going on, or at least starting to. But don't tell us that the shooter was one of ours, because he might have registered, but he was not. He was clearly not one of ours.
Well, for the record, there is a tactic that among
Democrats
people register. Well, I think it's probably, but both sides do it, where they register as the opposite party. And it's sort of, there's a tactic involved to involving changing the state. But also another thing too is that he donated to Joe Biden's campaign. So his registration was when he was 18. and he's 20 years old. So in like 2 years, he was registered Republican, but he donated to the Democrat Party. But I mean, that's
Well,
making
there's
it more
another
political.
thing.
Look at it this way, though. This is more important.
There's
Ann
another thing to
Navarro
understand.
and Navarro from The View, the panel from The View, always touts herself as a registered Republican.
Yeah,
But she is
yeah.
in no way, like supportive of the Republican Party. So it's like you can register as something and then take a giant dump on it. You know,
I don't know if you
use
guys
the
remember.
registration to like harm the party essentially.
I don't know if you guys remember, but when Bush Jr. was running in the primary against John McCain in his, I think it was his first election, his first term. There were news reports back in the day that a plot had been exposed among Democrats to register as Republicans during the primary and vote in the Republican primary in order to prevent Bush from running. And they were all going to vote for McCain. And so, like, this isn't something new. People being, registering in the other party to manipulate. It's probably been done throughout history, as long as there's been a system where the politics were dominated by two parties, right? That's the first thing, right? And the second thing that I want to address is the both sides crap. And I'm going to talk about this really bluntly, right? We have not seen any actual life-threatening violence committed by anybody that's even remotely associated with Trump. And everybody that's going to bring up January 6th can go fuck right the hell off, because everything that's come out since January 6th, the January 6th incident, shows that not only was there no death caused by any protests, several of the incidents that were claimed to be deaths caused by the protests were known at the time that the claims were made to not be so. So it was open lies trying to be used against a group of people, where those protests may have had people that got out of hand and people that destroyed property, people that did stupid stuff. For the most part, it was a gathering of people that were loud and obnoxious, and then they went on a guided tour. Like, they basically were allowed in and walked between velvet ropes and were taken and showed around by the Secret Service and everything. It's like there's not any comparison between that and firing guns at people. There's not any comparison between that and burning down whole neighborhoods and whole communities, which happened on the other side over the last several years, right? There's not anything that you could remotely say compares to the shit that Antifa's been doing. And by the way, I really want to know, why do the Antifa people who make the news all the time work so hard to make themselves look like supervillains or dipshit villains from the most obscure anime? Like, they really look ridiculous. But I'm kind of wondering if it's because, they think people will take them less seriously and they can get away with more shit. But yeah, so the whole both sides thing, fuck that. We've had every Democrat politician that gets treated as a talking head calling Trump Hitler and calling Trump supporters Nazis. We've had some openly calling for violence. We've had some openly calling for harassment of people in public for being supporters. Right? We've had some openly suggesting that it would be a good thing if certain people just couldn't be involved anymore. There has been an 8-year illegitimate criminal legal attack on the president, and I don't like saying former president, because I don't even feel like I trust that
Yeah, he's
terminology
45,
anymore.
46, and 47.
Yeah.
Because the
So there's
46 was
been,
stolen.
yep,
Fight me.
yep. So
You
there's
guys hear
been,
what we have with Tenacious D over this?
Yes.
yes.
Oh,
But
One of the
there's,
many cancellations, which I will
Yeah.
get into when Hannah
Yeah.
is finished
All
talking.
right.
so there's been such a history of advocacy for violence on the left, not from randos on Twitter, not from some group of dipshits at a rally that we don't know if they were some of the feds that were there or if they were there because they had their own issues. Right? But from actual sitting congressmen, from actual presidents, from actual journalists, from actual academics, people who influence law and policy, people who influence the culture of their side of the political fence. They're the ones calling for violence, not just randos. And there has been violence as a result of their calls for violence during the last 8 years. There has been a pattern of violence, which is why many of us who have been Trump supporters predicted this. We didn't necessarily predict a date. We didn't necessarily predict how, but many of us have been predicting. We feared that there would be an attempt on his life, right? And now, from what's coming out, it looks like the Biden administration deliberately starved all of his opponents of Secret Service protection, especially Trump. And then this happens. And they let it happen. When they let something like that happens, it is your job as a citizen to question it. Wonder what the hell, why did they let this happen? Why did this administration let this happen? What are they planning to use it for? Were they hoping that it would be effective? Like, did they actually use a dipshit to do this, hoping that he would succeed? Is that why they gave him so much room to do it? Or were they hoping to try to make Trump supporters look like they're crazy for getting upset about it? Because all the gaslighting kind of looks like that's what they were trying to do. But there is one thing that they cannot be taken seriously doing, and that is denying responsibility for inciting this violence, after inciting violence against Trump and Trump supporters and anybody that disagreed with them for the last 10 years, using demonization of all of us as Nazis, fascist, crazy, dangerous, stupid, threat to to our democracy, and using those as violence, as justification of violence. Right? You cannot then turn around when violence happens and say it wasn't our fault. You cannot call people Nazis and say it's okay to punch Nazis, it's okay to be violent toward Nazis, and then when somebody does it, say, "Oh, we weren't saying those people specifically." When somebody comes along and says, "Well, you're a Nazi because I disagree with you. I'm gonna attack you," and does it, you cannot then turn around and say, "Oh, it wasn't us. It wasn't our fault. We didn't make that happen." You did. You absolutely did. You are responsible. Right? If you have supported that narrative, if you have promoted that narrative, if you were one of the people who compared your opponents to Nazis and said it's okay to punch Nazis, you are responsible for this. Read it.
Yep.
Yeah, so you'll have noticed that that cancel culture exists now, quite magically. Have you seen this, folks? Have you
I
seen,
didn't know that.
after a long hibernation as a right-wing fantasy, cancel culture is now all of a sudden alive and well, rising as a phoenix from the flames and the frames, and it's finally affecting the anti-Trumpers, because the anti-Trumpers are openly advocating for human death as they furiously lament human life. They're literally calling for assassination, for the efficient completion of the
What's the final form of cancel culture?
It's the efficient completion of the assassination they always wanted. For all their efforts, they're not getting arrested. They're not even getting investigated. They're just getting shown the door, I believe, as a consequence of their shitty behavior, right? Is that how it works? You feel that sting, big boy? That's pride fucking with you. Fuck pride, and so on and so on. And you know what? I will do you the service of calling it what it is. It's not cancel culture. It's not consequence culture. It is persecution. Yes, you may go ahead and call it that if we can agree that that is always what it has been. Persecution. For years, you assholes have been persecuting people for the blasphemy of saying men and women are different. And that's it. That's enough for the persecution. Meanwhile, you guys are out here in public, no less, proudly declaring, yes, we support violence. Yes, we support riots. Yes, we support racial hierarchies. Yes, we support child torture. Yes, we support murdering those who oppose us. And yes, we'll support it again. OMG, we're being cancelled. How can you possibly support this? Because go fuck yourself. That's how. Yeah, you're not just getting cancelled, you're getting politically persecuted over something you said that may or may not have been a joke. Don't care, go fuck yourself. And yes, if the same thing happened to me, if the roles were reversed, yeah, I would indeed be outraged. So what happened to my principles, eh? Where are they? Where are my principles? Don't worry, I still have them. They're right here. I've stored them neatly away in my little box of go fuck yourself. I am sick to the back teeth of these soulless wastrels. I'm sick of trying to reason them out of their hypocrisy. I'm sick of trying to rationalize evil. It can't be done. So yes, we are going to language police you. We're going to rub your noses in what you've done, and you can eat my balls if you don't like it. There's a lot to be said for language policing when you remove the stigma and unravel it as a neutral concept. Because language can indeed be very dangerous. The things you do with it are very dangerous. And I don't mean speech, by the way. I mean language. Yes, they are different. One is the instrument. The other is the discipline. One is a right. The other is a duty. Just like you should have the right to bear arms, but it should come with strict and ubiquitous gun safety education. And it does. There are simple rules that everyone knows about guns. You keep it pointed down at the ground. You rest your finger on the side, not on the trigger. And even if you know for a fact that it's not loaded, you still treat every gun as though it is loaded, just in case. Okay, simple rules that everyone except Alec Baldwin knows. But yeah, that's how you temper the Promethean power of the Second Amendment. Rights come with responsibilities. You need gun safety to be part of your culture, as ingrained in your culture as guns are. And that entails what you might call gun policing. And I don't mean that in the form of the politician who's coming to take your guns, namely Joe Biden. I mean in the form of the guy at the shooting range whose job it is to bum rush you out of the place the very second you start horsing around with a loaded gun. That dude exists in every gun range, and they need to exist. I think we're all in favor of that level of gun policing, the level of the private individual and their property. And it's the same with the First Amendment. Yes, you absolutely should have the right to free speech. This should be inalienable and non-negotiable. And that means you need to be extra cautious of those who are grossly misusing language. And this is no small feat. Language can make monsters out of otherwise ordinary people. It can turn an atrocity into a triviality and back again. See, ordinarily, it's difficult. It's very difficult to get away with murder ordinarily, because you have to hide the body, you need to dismember the body, you need to get rid of the body. You might need to call a friend or two to help you with the heavy lifting of the body. And then you have to clean up everything. And I mean everything. You have to scrub every little blood stain off of everything. And then you need to fabricate an elaborate series of alibis and so on. It's one big upheaval, if you ask me. It's a frightful to do. Don't even try. But with language, when you have language, trademark Lucas TM, then you don't need any of that. You can murder someone and then just go, that wasn't murder. That was cheesecake. And then you just walk off. Yeah, fuck it, someone else's problem. Arrest me? Arrest me for what? Eating a cheesecake? Succulent Chinese cheesecake? No, I did not stab that police officer to death with a kitchen knife. This is not a kitchen knife. It's a sock, a small child's sock with Thomas the Tank Engine all over it. And I am not even holding it. I was never holding it. And I wasn't stabbing. I was hitting. And he's not dead. It was staged. Now, that sounds absurd, but the most absurd thing about it is it's not that absurd. As we've discovered in the last 100 years or so, if you're a party person, if you're popular enough with the ruling party, then that actually is how it works. You can say up is down. You can say black is white. You can say man is woman. And I mean literally. You can even literally say 2 + 2 is 5. We are at that stage. As long as you stick to the party script, as long as you stay within the walls, within the mandates of this season's manifesto, you have carte blanche to lie about anything and everything else all the time, and it's fine. It's encouraged, actually. If you're wandering around with these legal superpowers, it'll help us catch those scumbag Trump supporters, those non-party people who will, of course, be arrested if and when they lie. They will be arrested if and when they tell the truth because it's hate speech. And they will be arrested if and when they say nothing whatsoever because silence is violence, after all. They have a word for this in the Islamic faith, a word brought to them by the Hadiths. Many of you may know it. Taqiyya. You're allowed to lie if it helps the cause, if it helps the message, that sort of thing. Well, the Marxist faith doesn't even have a word for it because it's all they do. Like, why would a fish have a word for water? See, for Marxists, lying is not just an article of faith. It is the spirit of the faith itself. It's they know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, but they're still lying and so on. But the scary thing is they don't know they're lying. They know they're doing something. And they know they're doing it a lot. They know they do it all day, every day, all the time. They just don't call it lying. They call it cheesecake. I mean,
Rhetoric.
they might
They call it rhetoric.
Yeah, they don't call it anything because lying is bad and the party doesn't do bad things. End of story. Repeat the line. Pause. See, everyone everyone's having a go at Destiny right now for all his hot takes on this particular matter. But at least Destiny's being honest.
Honest.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I don't think Destiny.
He's letting the mask fall, and he's like
not,
sort of
he's not capable of being honest. But at least he's following through with the Trump derangement syndrome. He's persisting with the same anti-human rhetoric he's always used, that he's always been programmed to use. Most of the other Trump derangement zombies are instead showing their second face to this one. They're getting all serious. They're offering thoughts and prayers to the dead guy and the injured guys, and maybe even to Trump himself. But if you went up to these people on July the 12th and you asked them, would you celebrate Trump's assassination, even if it meant the death of one random innocent man? Of course they'd say yes. Without hesitation, they'd hit the button before you could even finish the sentence. By any means necessary, they will chant, as they've been chanting for many, many years. And they mean it. Trump is Satan to them, and they will cut down every law in the land to get to their Satan. They will burn the entire kingdom to rule over the ashes. These are the people who would rather nuke the world than use a racial slur once. That's how they program their apocalyptic AI. They would rather authorize the apocalypse than allow the singular utterance of a transphobic misgendering even once. And now they're turning around and going, who, us? No, we would never leave a man behind. Not even if it meant saving the world from Hitler. Well, I never. Heavens to Betsy, no. It's simply unconscionable that we would ever allow a man to be sacrificed to the volcanic jaws of this war machine. An innocent man, no less. No, heavens to Moose Jaw. No. Of course, you come back in 15 minutes and I'll be showing you another one of my faces and I'll tell you there's no such thing as an innocent man. You are all worse than wild bears. Fucking lying snakes, the lot of them. They're lying and they know they're lying. They want Trump dead and they'll do anything to make it happen, including lying. I mean, especially lying. I mean, lying is their job, basically. It's their duty as good little Marxist flunkies. So it's honestly refreshing when one of them snaps like Destiny did and just goes, fuck it, I can't be bothered with the lies anymore. Yes, I hate Trump. I hate him and I want him dead. I hate everyone who supports him. I hate everyone who supports anyone who supports him, and I want them all dead. Fuck all the gaslighting. I can't do it. I'm running on fumes now, and I can't do it. I hate you all, and I want you dead. I want your families to die, and I will laugh and applaud when your families die. Well, of course, 6 months later, 6 months from now, he'll pretend he never said that. As a matter of fact, he'll insist that no one has ever said that. And you could go, look, Destiny, here's a bunch of clips of people saying exactly that. That thing that you said no one ever said, including you. Here's you saying that thing that you said no one has ever said. No, fingers and ears. No, it didn't happen. None of that happened, according to this Wikipedia article someone in my Discord just sent me. And yeah, no, he'll go right back to the gaslighting and the glorification of murder. He'll keep alternating between them, just like everyone else. 1 minute he'll falsely accuse his opponents of glorifying murder, and the next minute he'll freely and wantonly glorify murder as though there's nothing wrong with it. And he'll get away with it because he's a babbling fountain of communist gobbledygook in the heart of a corrupt system that handsomely rewards babbling fountains of communist gobbledygook. This system of commie gobbledygook is the reason there are so many Trump derangement zombies out there. How many people do you suppose there are, just in America, let's say, who would be willing to kill Trump. Like, hypothetically, if the opportunity presented itself and you knew you'd get away with it and other such variables, it's probably a lot, given how many people will happily admit it in public in a heartbeat that they want to kill Donald Trump. There must be, I mean, there's that many and many more. I mean, everyone who listens to CNN and ABC and MSNBC, if you combine all of their audiences together, you've got a good dozens of people. Dozens. Seriously, though, there are probably millions of people who sincerely want Trump dead. And that is the fault of the establishment media and the Democrat swamp from which they take their orders, and the threat narrative that makes up their agenda. That's what they do. They make people angry by lying to them, and they do it on purpose. And they never issue retractions or apologies when they've been caught lying. They just move on to the next lie, and their audience is none the wiser. That's why there's such a widespread vitriol about Trump, even more than a president would normally get. And there's always the odd murderous nut job here and there, like someone who wants to kill John Lennon just to get famous, that sort of thing, the herostratic fame type. But the reason there are millions of people who want to kill Trump, and not just for the fame, but for what they see as the greater good, the reason for that is because that's how many people are listening to all this Democrat propaganda masquerading as the truth. They're listening to it and they're believing all of it. And within those millions, there's a subset of actual, like, active treason. It's conceivable that at any given time, in any given state, there are scores of people who are trying to assassinate Donald Trump. Not just willing to do it hypothetically, but actively trying to do it IRL. Or at least they're looking into it. Some more actively than others, but they're all somewhere along their plot to take out the evil orange man. And they're just waiting for him to come to their town so that they can go down in history as the hero who killed Hitler. But when the time comes and they arrive at the scene, if they arrive at the scene, they can't quite manage to pull it off, like, logistically, because there's a huge perimeter of maximum security to get through, including an array of trained snipers who really can aim for your ear. They could shoot the diamonds out of your earrings from half a mile away. And they've been put there for this very reason, to make it impossible for anyone to survive past the perimeter with any firearm, never mind a bloody great sniper rifle slung across their back while they climb on top of a roof. The security detail is there for the precise purpose of shooting people before they can even finish climbing onto the roof with a bloody great sniper rifle slung across their back. Never mind long after they've made it up there onto the roof. They've set up shop. They've assembled their rifle and then disassembled it and reassembled it. And then they've had a quick smoke. They've had a quick picnic with some ham sandwiches and some Doritos and some Dr. Pepper. Why not? It's a lovely day after all. And they've briskly proceeded to get the gun trained directly at the former president, next president, whatever you want to call it. That's why this story is different. It shouldn't be surprising that someone would want to kill Trump. It's not even surprising that someone would try to kill Trump. It probably happens all the time. It always fails at, like, step one or step two, where the gun gets confiscated and then nothing happens and there's no news story. The anomalous scandal here is how in the donkey dick did this guy make it to step 5, where he got all the way through all those perimeters and he had a direct shot at the president's head and no one had stopped him at that point. That, we detail, is not the fault of of the legacy media. It's the fault of the swamp from which they take their orders. The same swamp from which the security and intelligence agencies take their orders. There's no farting around talking about stochastic terrorism with this shit at this point. This came from the top. This was allowed to happen because of the actions and or inactions of the top brass, whoever that may be. So is it a case of incompetent negligence, or is it a case of malevolent negligence? Or fuck the negligence, maybe it was just malevolence. Was this not just allowed to happen, but orchestrated to happen? No, of course not. That's a crazy conspiracy theory. It's not happening. It would never happen. And I will definitely not turn around in 30 seconds from now and claim it is happening, but it's a good thing. Well, I never. How very dare you? Heavens to my anus. No. Okay, then that leaves you with incompetence as the only possible explanation. Why were the Secret Services so incompetent? And if it's not because 30% of them are diversity hires, I'm all ears with regard to alternate explanations. And I believe that brings us on to the second chapter of this. What the fuck was going on with the diversity hires in the Secret Service?
It's also important to address something else here, because people are wondering, how the hell Trump derangement syndrome exists. Why are people so hateful toward this one man? And if you look at American history, this is not unique, right? This is why Kennedy was killed. The same reason why Trump is hated is why Kennedy was killed. And even though
they created the same narrative around Ronald Reagan, he got
right,
shot too.
Right. Even though the killer, the would-be killer that tried to shoot Ronald Reagan said he was trying to impress Jodie Foster, and Jodie Foster had to come out and disavow immediately. I'm sure it probably appalled her that happened, but that happened because he thought that taking out a man who was trying to bring down the establishment, who was trying to fundamentally change the fabric of American politics, would impress this woman, right? That's the narrative. There are two groups of people in the United States. There are two very basic types of people here. There are people that can trace their way of thinking back to the founding fathers and the colonists who made the decision to divide this nation into a separate nation from England. And then there are people who desperately cling to a mommy government. And the people who desperately cling to a mommy government are dependent. Just like people who use heroin are dependent. And I know a lot of people out there are going to be mad because they're going to see this in themselves. But if you think that the solution to everything is bigger and bigger government, if you think that it would be an absolute disaster if the overwhelming majority of departments and agencies in the government were overhauled, but you're also scared of the Republicans having control over all of them, you are blind. Right? Why would it be scary for any particular party to have control over all of those things if they're a good thing? If you desperately need every aspect of your life controlled by the government, why would you think that you get to pick which elites tell you how to live your life and what you should do? If you think that the elites are better than you and smarter than you and entitled to control, micromanage every aspect of your life using a variety of departments and agencies and regulations and rules that never get vetted by elected officials, right? That's the side That's the mentality that hates people like Trump and Reagan and Kennedy and going back to the beginning, because their safety nets are being threatened, right? Their udder is being threatened, that they suckle from instead of doing their own shit, earning their own stuff, and surviving by their own means and their own efforts. Now, it's fair for people with extreme handicaps to need something like that. And it's fair for people who are genuinely disabled to want help from other people and get scared if they can't get it, because they're fucked if they don't, right? But most of you, and I say most of you, even to people who, like me, have some degree of disability and still work, most of you don't have that situation. Most of us don't have that situation. We can do things. And most people do not need agencies and departments and rules and regulations and micromanagement from a federal government to tell you how to live your life and take care of yourself and take care of your family and be part of your community. And those of us who are on that side of the political fence, there are a lot of us who took years and years to wake up to just how addicted and therefore scared of losing the subject of their addiction people on the other side of the political fence are. And if I didn't know drug addicts personally who have behaved the same way over the potential loss of opiates, I probably never would have come to understand this in regard to safety nets, social safety nets, and legal safety nets, and the people who actually have Trump derangement syndrome. It's not Trump derangement syndrome. It's safety net derangement syndrome. They're scared of Orange Man because Orange Man represents freedom from the safety nets and withdrawal of the safety nets and withdrawal from the safety nets. And you will go through withdrawal. You will be upset. You will be scared. You will have all kinds of panic and pain and suffering getting used to standing on your own 2 feet, because the muscles you need for that are atrophied. And it's going to take a lot of work in this country to get that strength back for the people who have given it up. And it's terrifying if you're in that situation. It's absolutely terrifying to let go of those safety nets. But if you don't, you're going to take the whole country down with you as you spiral into more and more dependence and more permission for government abuses. So I'm suggesting that those of us on the not safety net addicted side of the political fence, we all need to understand that you can't just reason with the other side. You can't just provide them with facts and logic and evidence and expect them to rationally deal with that information, because they are addicted to something that is strangling them to death. Right? I've talked about this before. Safety nets are dangerous. There is no such thing as a safe safety net. It's like a gun. If you misuse it, it's deadly. If you use it properly, it's deadly too. And so don't think that you can just persuade people to change their minds. And for those on the other side who are starting to question, the mentality of the people around you and how it got to this point, you have to look at yourself and you have to take some accountability. And it's going to hurt to do that, and you're going to hate it. But in the end, it is the only thing you can do to save yourself. There won't be very many of you that will listen to me saying that and not get mad and actually consider that you're in the wrong here and that you need to revamp and revise your outlook. But there will be some, and that's the only reason for me to say this. The rest of it is just, people who recognize that safety nets are dangerous and that safety net addiction is a thing, and that we are in a situation where the safety net addicts are either going to take the country down with them or be stopped. That we have to not try to get them to like us, stop trying to get them to like us, stop trying to rationally argue to them and get their acquiescence, and just run them over. In politics, in the voting booth, in media, everywhere but in real life. They just need to be ignored. You can support your friends and family when they're recovering from their safety net addiction. You can be kind to people in person who are suffering from safety net withdrawal. But in terms of voting, in terms of debate, in terms of what you say in public in regard to this, be firm, be nonviolent, be honest, be steadfast, and have no consideration for the other side's opinions, because they don't matter. They're not rational.
Yep. I've been saying this for years. I remember I would do streams with Allison, and we would talk about, stuff that communists were doing, things like that. And Allison would, because Allison is a rational kind of person, she'd be like, oh, well, rationally, it's like, and I say, Allison, they don't care. And I had to tell her over and over, look, you're dealing with people who they don't care that you can break down their reasoning. They don't care that you can make better arguments. They don't care. All they care about is winning. I've even showed clips of straight up sophists, because that's what they are. They're sophists, and they use rhetoric to basically win arguments, and they consider that if they win an argument with their words, then whatever they're saying, it becomes true, which is just not the case. Look at Vosh. He has like a degree in rhetoric. He's actually said this. That means he is an evil moron that knows how to use words to make people think that he's right. This is evil. And that's what I've been saying from the beginning. It is evil. You can't rationalize with evil people. You just have to shame them. You have to ridicule them, and you have to move on. And you try to save people that are caught up in their spell, their words, and try to, get them out of there. And this is old. You can look up sophistry. It's all about getting consensus. You remember the COOF and how that was all about consensus, the experts? Yeah, it's the same shit. These people use words to lie, and they could try to convince you that you are, in fact, like, they create reality with words. It's like wizards, but it's not true. And the truth is, they don't care if you have, you can have, the most bad-busting, boning, fucking logical arguments in the world, and it won't matter. They will still shoot you in the head if they get a chance, because all they care about is winning. And this has to be internalized. So, when I got into an argument with Allison a little bit, it wasn't on the show, and I was talking about what happened. It was right after the assassination, or attempt of the assassination, and I was saying, well, this is going to become both sides, because people are going to be like, well, January 6th, whatever, and I said, I was talking to Allison about it, and she basically was like, well, I don't have a reason to like the guy. And I was like, Allison, stop it. Stop it. Somebody tried to kill him, and you're still trying to tell me that you're not totally in his camp. I don't need you to convince me of that. I need you to acknowledge that this was evil. That's all that matters. I don't care what he did to you. Can you really compare coming close to death? I'm talking, if he didn't turn his head, he wouldn't be here right now, and this country would be in way worse shape. You can't compare that to being, fucking grounded from the country for 5 years. Sorry that happened, but there's no comparison. This is what I'm talking about. And a lot of these people, they think, well, if I'm super rational, I won't appear to be too biased. Who cares? What's I'm biased towards people not murdering other people? I guess I'm biased then. I guess I'm just a partisan hack when it comes to not wanting to murder people for political gain. I guess that's just a position. I'm not on the fence. Where's the fence there? Where is the fence? Tell me. So sometimes, guys, things are just clear cut, and you just got to go with it. You got to stop trying to be like, the super enlightened 1 billion IQ centrist that's like, well, I can see both sides. No, this is evil versus like normal people. I wouldn't even say good. This is evil against normal. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's all there. I'm just saying that's all there is to it. And, there were people like, again, they saw it as an opportunity to be like, look at how smart I am. I'm going to put in I'm not going to name any names, but I will say that Blair White, Aiden Paladin, Dr. Randall McCam, Hannah, they've had base things to say about this. It's just like, don't rationalize evil. You're playing a losing game, and there's nothing to benefit from it. You have to acknowledge that what happened is evil, full stop. That's it. And you have to say no. That's it. So like that is like the paradigm we are now in. And anybody who makes any excuses for this, I don't care how subtle, they are siding with evil. This is what happens when you this is why I always say never apologize and don't give up an inch, not a millimeter to these people. Not a little bit of consideration, because they will take it and they will use it. The left is all about moving the Overton window further and further left, which it has over like the centuries. And for this, at this point, there is no such thing as centrism, because if you claim to be a centrist, you're just moving to the left a little bit slower than the left, because you're trying to find where's the center here. And this is a mistake. You have to.
Well, there's something I've noticed about
Here's
centrists.
what you got to do. Here's what you got to do. You gotta say, these are my principles. They will not move, and that's it. You don't fuck these people on the left doing whatever they want. These are my principles. I don't believe in murder. I don't believe in theft. And that's it. Like, you don't have to like slide it. Like when they look, let me just say this, okay? My life was turned upside down by these people. Like, they burned down Chicago, and part of this was done as a result of Trump being in office. It was chaos created specifically because they don't like the orange man. And I could not make I couldn't make many people understand my position. I had to flee Chicago because Lindsay was in real danger, because everybody wanted to kill white people in Chicago. She happens to be white. So I had to uproot my whole life. I don't make that much money doing this job, by the way, which is really frustrating. I like living hand to mouth. We had to move to Virginia. I have no support system. My family is nowhere near here. My life has been completely turned upside down, and I've managed to adapt to some degree because of these fucking people. Because of these fucking people. So like, can you understand that the centrism is actually more annoying than like the radical leftism? Because I can at least look at that and say, yeah, you're a nutty person. You're an evil demonic human being that doesn't give a fuck about me while claiming to give a fuck about people like me. But the centrism is really annoying, because it's just people. What it is people being moral cowards. They just like, I don't want to be involved. Well, I'm sorry. You may not like politics, but politics is interested in you. So it's time for you to figure out what the fuck you believe in and stand by it. So there you go. That's like my life. I want my life back, guys. I would like my life back. I would like to be able to be with my family and my friends again. I don't like it here. I'm alone. It's just me and Lindsay. We don't spend any time together because we both have to work, and our schedules are opposite. So I'm just kind of fucked here, and I'd like to not be fucked anymore.
Yeah. The thing about centrism is it's not real for the most part.
No, of course not.
Like 99.9 repeating % of the people that I've run into who try to be centrists, and the key word there is try, are trying too hard. If you have to go through mental gymnastics to parlay random rarities on one side into an equivalent to a systematic, institutionalized, widespread, and unstoppable behavior on the other side, you're not a centrist. You're just a liar.
Yeah. You're
It's
lying
the
to
same
yourself
as
most of all.
yeah, it's the same as if a kindergartner and an eighth grader got into a fight at the park and you were like, well, they both threw punches. Like, what kind of dipshit throws punches at a kindergartner? You go find the kid's parents and say, hey, do you know that your kid's running around punching eighth graders? You want to do something about that? Or you pick the kid up and you take them to the parents, or you sit them down and you have a conversation with them. But you're not in danger from a kindergartner that's throwing punches if you're an eighth grader, unless the kindergartner is my brother, and like that was a different story. Um, but seriously, you have to look at the level of power involved in what's going on here. Right? We have seen, like I said, a systematic, institutionalized pattern of behavior toward one person in the entire political arena and his supporters. And the theme is this person is threatening our safety net addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They are willing to sacrifice every principle they have, every principle they say they have. They've thrown black people under the bus. They've thrown migrants under the bus. They are trafficking the children of the people that they are claiming to protect. They're burning down cities in the country that they're claiming to protect. Right? They're throwing women under the bus. They're throwing everybody under the bus. They don't care about you. And they don't care about any of us.
Yeah. Well, we got to get to the next story because this is going long. But go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Centrism is supposed to be the baseline. It's supposed to be where you start your journey when you begin to learn whatever you consider to be the facts, and that's normal. You should start from the center of the dial, from the center of the compass, before you learn anything that can be established as true. And for all these reasons, I have to say I'm not interested in what I'm being told about the alleged shooter or the official narrative surrounding the alleged shooter. I've no reason to believe any of it is true. I delay confirmation of truths until they're reasonably established. For instance, for the first few minutes after the incident, when we were all first learning about it, when I first saw the video footage of the assassination attempt, it did occur to me that this might be too good to be true, because it could not possibly have gone better for Trump. He got shot and he survived. He didn't even get seriously injured. He got the perfect photo opportunity that will be remembered for hundreds of years. And he essentially won the election there and then. If the bullet was an inch to the right, he'd be dead. And we'd be having a very different conversation right now. I dread to think what. Whereas if the bullet was an inch to the left, it wouldn't even have grazed his ear, and there would be no blood, and people would be left wondering if there even were any bullets being fired. That bullet somehow threaded the needle into the 1 inch wide spot that made Trump a martyr without killing him. So yes, it did occur to me at first that the whole thing might have been fake and gay. Like maybe Trump ducked down below the podium and then he applied a theatrical blood squib or whatever, and then he got up and went, I've been shot bigly, people. Nobody's ever been shot like this before. It's tremendous. I've been trained to think like this because everything you see on the TV is fake and gay. Everything you read in the newspapers is fake and gay. And most of what you see on the internet is fake and gay. So no matter what happens, there's always part of me that wonders, is this fake and gay? Of course, we soon discovered that someone in the crowd Cory, what's his name, had indeed been killed by a bullet, and 2 other people had been injured by bullets, very strongly indicating that there were indeed actual real-life bullets flying around, and not just loud popping sounds as some publications report. At that point, my fake and gay contingency dropped from about 15% to less than 1%. I'm still not 100% sure about anything. And at all times, I applied skeptical goggles up to and frankly beyond reasonable doubt. And for the very same reason, by the same skeptical standards, I don't necessarily have any good reason to assume that Thomas Crooks is a real person. Why would I? As a very wise woman once said, that motherfucker is not real. And I don't mean he's like an NBC or a brainwashed bot. I don't mean it in an American Psycho kind of way where you can shake his hand and feel flesh gripping yours, but he simply is not there. No, I mean there is no such person as Thomas Matthew Crooks, and there never was. Or maybe there was, but the deep state abducted the original Thomas Crooks and killed him and stole his identity and gave it to some rando who they encountered on a Discord server, and then entrapped him into the atrocity that you saw before you, and then they killed him. But that's absurdly convoluted. The deep state would never do anything so complicated in the small, trifling matter of executing a president they don't like. Oh, you poor sweet summer child, you blind fish, you blind mass of migrating salmon leaping directly into the mouth of a bear, you. After all we've been through, do you really think the authorities would tell you the truth? But you don't know. You don't understand the normal course of things when it comes to presidential assassinations. You don't understand the normal course of things when it comes to mail-in voting. You don't understand the intricacies of how such things work. Yet neither do you, you daft cunt. These are things that very rarely happen. And when they do, they are kept deep in the shadows of uncertainty. But sure enough, the FBI investigates itself, and the FBI concludes that the FBI did nothing wrong. And you believe the FBI, while you vehemently deny the existence of the deep state that you so unquestioningly believe when they tell you what happened. While you vehemently call everyone else credulous authoritarian bootlickers for not going along with the approved narrative. Wild, my dude. Fucking wild. Do please make the most of the perpetual motion machine that is the rattling centrifuge in George Orwell's grave. Yes, I'm talking to you. You know who you are. I know you're not listening to this, but I'm talking to you anyway. And with that, friends, I leave you. With that, friends, Romans, countrymen, former friends, former Romans, and former countrymen, I leave you to ruminate on what the fuck you're doing with your lives. God bless you. Get well soon. I will see you in various layers of hell. Looking forward to it.
All right, we're going to move on to the next story because I'm running out of time here. So let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. These other two are going to be short because I got to pick Lindsay up, so I won't be able to go late on the after show today. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about his security detail. So do you guys know who, I think Mike or Hannah? No, Hannah said that, let me go back to this here, I'm sorry. And I put it on my Twitter as well, that Trump was denied a security detail comparable to a former president.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was by the Biden administration, and one of the people involved was the guy who was on the January 6th commission, which was the sham investigation trial that essentially tried to frame Trump for, conspiracy to fucking insurrect on the Capitol without any without any weapons somehow.
Yeah.
So we know about that. But did you also know, which I think you probably did, that the whole team, the woman behind this, her name was Kimberly Cheadle, which we mentioned. She used to
You
be
know
with
that
the
that's
Secret.
what they call the cheese powder. Cheetle is what they call the cheese powder on Cheetos.
Oh, really?
That yellow stuff that gets all over your fingers, that's
Kimberly
Cheetle. It's not spelled the
Kimberly
same though.
Cheadle. Yeah. Kimberly Cheadle. She spent 27 years with the Secret Service, retired in 2019, then worked at PepsiCo, where she actually guarded Cheetos, North America, before being rehired by President Biden in August of 2022. Biden praised her exceptional leadership and judgment from their time together during his vice presidency. Cheadle faces criticism for prioritizing diversity. Of course she did. They were basically using DEI in the Secret Service over merit, aiming for 30% female recruits by 2030. This included having separate, less rigorous fitness standards for women. So they lowered the standards so that women could be in the Secret Service. Cheadle's boss is Alejandro Mayorkas, who's also a piece of trash, head of the Department of Homeland Security. So Trump had fewer people than he was supposed to, diversity hires, and everybody knows that video of the woman that had trouble holstering her weapon, like Rosie O'Donnell, like on a bad day.
Yeah.
And they were shorter than him, and they were physically weaker than him. So I think this is worth mentioning because it is the ways in which DEI can kill people. Like it almost got him killed. And I don't think it was an accident. Plus, you know that they spent more money to give Secret Service protections to Jill Biden.
Yeah.
When she was speaking doing a speech somewhere around the same time that Trump was holding his rallies. So Jill Biden, possibly the real mastermind.
They didn't even give Kennedy any Secret Service protection, even though he is a presidential candidate. So the Biden administration is either completely incompetent in regard to trying to ensure that the election process goes off without a hitch and the people get the chance to decide who is going to be president without any interference of the violent type. Or they are deliberately trying to eliminate the competition because they know that Biden can't win. Those are the two possibilities. There's not some mysterious third possibility. It's either incompetence or willful negligence in hopes that something like this would happen. So you guys can think, and decide on your own. But I will say that the left does have a pattern of tolerating outcomes like this throughout at least the last 10 years in regard to like protests and crime and other things that have led to violence against people in the United States. But that said, this story is about this woman specifically, and I'm just going to flat out say women have no business being involved in any of the legwork among politicians that Secret Service does. Right?
I mean, considering what her team looks like, I don't even think they were able to guard
not even just the team.
and the Pepsi Cola very well.
Not even the team. It's her. All right? It's women in general have no business doing the administration end of it or the being the human shield end of it. All right? Women are good at tracking down rumors and investigating stuff like that. They're good at digging and finding information to use against people and remembering it for 10 years and bringing it up in completely irrelevant arguments. But they are not good at protecting other adults. Women are decent at protecting their children, especially if they also have a man protecting them. right? And it's great that moms and dads have each other's backs, and it's great that women will that many women will run into a burning house to save their babies and things like that. But this is something that men are uniquely qualified for. And I'm probably going to get canceled for saying that, but women suck at this. Women suck at being human shields. Women suck at recognizing the threat level around them. They don't have to do that all day, every day like men do, because they're protected by men. And women
Yep.
suck at planning security for events like this. And it is just a fact. A lot of it's cultural. I'm not saying that women are handicapped in this way naturally, because we don't know that. We would have to get rid of the culture of protecting women. We'd have to get rid of gynocentrism entirely before we would find that out and raise a couple of generations of little girls like they were little boys entirely before we would find out if women actually have any natural aptitude for that, because it is completely eclipsed by our gynocentric culture. And the very things that feminists demand that we do for women as a result of that gynocentric culture, the very things that traditional women, traditionalist women and traditional women, and those are two different groups, by the way, demand that we do for women as part of our culture, cripple women's ability to do jobs like this. Right? There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. No one should have to rely on a woman to do a job like this. It is unfair to the people who depend on the worker. And it is also unfair to the women, and it is unfair to the men who have to work with them, who have to make up for their inability and protect them, because our culture trains them to do that too. It doesn't matter if the muscle mass and the bone density and the brain structure and the chemical structure in the brain make women different. We don't even get to that point because we don't get through the culture that trains women out of any natural aptitude they have for self-defense and defending the people around them. We never actually get to the point where those things have an influence, because women are handicapped before those things get tested. We should not have any women doing that job. And this woman should not have been in her position. A man should have been doing that job. And a man wouldn't have let this happen. And if he did let this happen, on the off chance that it actually is a conspiracy, there would be more accountability.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be talking about whether or not he was incompetent. Heads would be rolling.
It wasn't our fault that you were shot in the head, Mr. President. It was only up to us to provide a qualified security detail. By that, we mean it was up to us to provide a bunch of fat, sweaty cunts who have no idea what they're doing. Meanwhile, Joe Biden, in the event that he ever does appear in public, gets 50 burly 7-foot men to defend him. You, Donald Trump, get a bunch of frumpy women who are 150 pounds soaking wet. This wasn't our fault. It's your fault because you hate women. Like, if we were in the universe 1 inch from here when Trump actually got assassinated, the headlines would be, Trump got assassinated. Men's rights advocates blame women. Because, yeah, in this reality, yeah, we kind of are blaming women because you used them in a situation where you absolutely knew they would not be necessary or sufficient for the job at hand. It goes to show you, if you want a company to die, use DEI. If you want airline passengers to die, like Boeing does, use DEI. If you want presidents to die, use DEI. And we might as well go ahead and call it DIE because that's what it is. And this wasn't me playing devil's advocate. This was me pointing out that it's perfectly capable for you to kill anyone in the world, even the former and next president of the USA, by just replacing men with women. Because men will do the job properly and women will just be like, what do we do? Where do we go? Somebody help us. Where do we go? You're trying to save the president from being killed. But I don't understand what we do. What do we do? Where we go? Fuck. I mean, we've seen the iconic photo, with the clear blue sky and the American flag, and that photo will be remembered for centuries, and I mean centuries. But will always be dogged by the image of that woman right in front of Trump, just to his left, who's bending down and clutching his abdomen for some reason. Like she's not even pretending to be in between him and the sniper. She's just bending down, going, I guess they're not going to shoot his dick as long as I'm here. Like, what is she doing? She's not doing anything. She's there because she's a woman, because this is 2024 and women get given jobs that they have no business doing because they're women. And I really hope history can fill in those details. I hope they can give the backstory as to why the fuck there is a useless cunt just taking up the foreground of this historical image. I really hope people will take away the most important point.
Crop it a certain way, you know.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, well, we're going to move on to the next story. This has gone a little over, but the last story is probably one of the more important ones. So let me check and see if I miss any super chats or super chows. The One Good Man gives us $5 and says, speech is violence, silence is violence, but violence is not violence. That's correct. That's a very, very well put.
Violence is silence when the right people do it, and silence is violence when wrong people do it. I don't know how it works.
Let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. We're going to move on to the last story. Because in all of this turmoil and all this talk about the orange man in politics, there were actual human beings involved, and some of them unfortunately paid the ultimate price, or at least one. So, Cory Comperatore, a firefighter, was shot and killed while trying to protect his family during an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump at the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Comperatore, remembered as a devoted family man and community servant, shielded his family from gunfire. So he literally got in the way and took the shots. The shooter, identified as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, was killed by Secret Service agents. Comperatore's actions are, and his final words were, "Get down." Many have regarded him as a hero. 2 others were critically injured in the incident and are recovering. President Biden expressed condolences, while the community and organizations have shown support through donations and tributes. I think Elon Musk gave $100,000 or something, which is kind of a drop in the bucket for him, but okay. For the families, which I am grateful for. The attack has prompted discussions about political violence and the impact on victims' families. And there was one other thing about this too. Just today, I learned that the Biden camp, I guess, tried to reach out to the widow of Comperatore, and she would not answer. She would not talk to them. So, based? Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to hear from him either right now. If I lost my husband because of someone's negligence and they wanted to politicize it, you know, like for that to be reported on, somebody had to have been like planning to use that as a PR thing. And I mean, I know it's kind of traditional for a president to reach out to a family in a situation like this, and it would be politicized if he didn't. But I would have nothing to say to that man at this time that should be said to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I would be the that's one of those moments where you jump directly into the anger stage of grief. And that's what happened when I understood what happened to my parents. Like I bypassed everything on the way to the anger stage of grief, got stuck there, and have been there ever since. And
Yep.
don't people start suggesting that I go to talk therapy, because I've tried that in the past. Talk therapy works for most women, but I'm not among that group. There are other things that I'm going to have to do, and that's probably going to be similar with this situation too. Because you wouldn't be able to just, this isn't something that you can deal with, the grief from a traumatic event like this where there is blame to be had. To work your way through that grief, you have to fight for accountability for the people who are at fault. And so I wouldn't talk to that president for $1,000,000 in this situation if I was her.
Yep.
That said, this man, people are going to be, oh, he shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't do that for a
Well,
woman. Blah blah blah. You know what?
they
He
tried to dig up.
did
They tried to dig
because
up
he's.
some of his old tweets to figure out if he was sexist or whatever.
You know
I don't know
what?
if you
It
guys know
doesn't
that,
matter.
but
It doesn't
no, of
matter.
course it doesn't
This
matter.
is a husband and father who loved his family, and he saw them in danger, and he did what men instinctively do when people they love are in danger. And we don't have to obligate men to do that, to recognize that it is honorable when they do, and that it is a show of love when they do, and to be sad that he was punished for it with death. And that's what happened. And my heart goes out to this family because they lost a great man. And my heart goes out to this man, and I hope that he is at peace, knowing that he did his best for his family. But Biden let this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked earlier about the buck stopping with the person in charge. The president is the executive of the corporation that the country is. Every country is a corporation,
Sure.
right? Biden is the CEO. This is his fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fault of whoever's in charge of him, but the buck is supposed to stop with
Yeah.
him. So yeah, fucking, that's what we
Biden
have to
agreed to
do.
be in that position. He knew what he was getting into when he ran for president. He's been in politics in Washington his whole life. He has never really done anything else but be a politician. Before he was in Washington, he was a prosecutor. He never did anything that wasn't politics. He knew. He is responsible.
You know, one of the greatest tragedies in all of this is as Biden's memory deteriorates, as he succumbs to dementia and Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or whatever's going on, he's not going to remember what he's done. He's going to be spared the hideous memories of everything he did to ruin the country, nay, the world. It's all just going to slip out of his memories, and he won't have to suffer. He won't have to suffer the memory of all the hideous things he's done, of all the wrong directions in which he's pushed history. He's going to lie there in his decades-long deathbed, just not remembering what he's done. And so there will be no one to be held accountable for the nightmares that he's inflicted on the world. And that's the saddest thing of all. There will be no one to blame. There will be a husk of barely human matter on a deathbed that we call Joe Biden. And he won't remember. He won't remember what he's done. There'll just be the rest of us wondering for the next century why the fuck anyone allowed this charlatan, this liar, to ever get as far as the highest office in the world. It's going to be confounding to everyone's conscience, especially Joe Biden. Like, the one thing I want for Joe Biden is for him to come to terms with what he's done. And that's a lot, not just in the last 4 years, but in the last 50 years of his sham existence as someone who's supposed to be serving the public. He's going to forget. Nobody is going to be burdened with the memories of what Joe Biden did. And that's, that's the saddest thing of all. That's even sadder than a wholesome family man losing his life. No one is going to be held morally, personally, individually accountable for what Joe Biden has done, because it no longer exists in Joe Biden's memory. And if it doesn't exist there, then it only exists out here in the ether where we can argue about it. We can't punish Joe Biden. It's too late. He doesn't remember. There's no one we can punish for the horrors that Joe Biden has inflicted on the world. And that's an awful thought. But it's what happens. It's what so often happens in politics. People fuck up the world, and then they keep fucking up the world until they're too old to remember how much they fucked up the world. And yeah, there's nothing we can do about it except never again voting the likes of Joe Biden into anything approaching a responsible office. I hope people remember this. I hope people remember the lesson from this. Because there are other Joe Bidens. God knows there are hundreds of other Joe Bidens in Congress who are ready, willing, able, and gleeful to absolutely ruin the country they're supposed to be serving and the populace they're supposed to be conserving. And they'll get away with it. And then their brains will rot and they'll die and no one will ever be held accountable. And yeah, I don't know what to do with that. It's just fucking sad. It's just fucking sad and enraging and all of the negative emotions. And you should feel them. You should feel them until we've killed everyone. That's a joke.
All right. Well, I got nothing else to add. It's a tragedy, but this is the cost of political violence. So, and it will be men that will lay their lives for their families. And unfortunately, this is the reality that we live in. Women largely won't do that. Anyway, we're gonna head into the patron show now. It's probably gonna be a bit of a shorter one, but not that much, maybe 45 minutes. But yeah, feel free to join us there. So in order to do that, become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. So feedthebadger.com/subscribe. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, where you'll be able to watch all of the additional content, like the patron shows and stuff like that. And of course, the monthly fundraiser is going on. I believe Allison is doing a special giveaway, limited edition printed t-shirts. So you might want to look into that by going to feedthebadger.com/support. And if you want to send us a message after this, and you don't want YouTube to take half the money, then send it to feedthebadger.com/just-the-tip. All right. So with all that said, if you guys like this video, please smash like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. Links to all the sources are in the description of this video. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Are machines, dude. Okay, they are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.